Hello and welcome to another video from Alberta Bushcrafter. Now this one is another one of our series on stoves. Now we've covered a few of them. I'm going to introduce you to an old, actually it's not so much old, it's still in production, but this one is an old classic that's seen me through, believe it or not, 27 years. This is the MSR WhisperLite stove, the Mountain Safety Research WhisperLite. Let's take a look at this. The basic kit, see when I got it, it did not come with a bag for the stove. That's how old this is. Let's have a look what's in here. Oh, we got some extras. So with your basic stove, this is what you get. You get a very efficient, wonderful stove and a pump. You're wondering like, well, where's the fuel tank? Earlier backpacker stoves had a fuel tank underneath the stove. This one, MSR was the first company to come up with the idea of a high pressure fuel bottle. It also comes with a heat reflector. This is heavy duty foil. So this goes under the burner. Yeah, I'll apologize, it's a little old. This is an original. You can get replacements for every part for MSR stoves as well. You get replacement pumps, you get replacement pump handles. There's actually a maintenance kit you can get, which again, when I got it, did not come in a nice little box. You can also get the Expedition kit, which is even more parts and a lot more spares. I recommend the Expedition kit because it will last you a good couple of years. Anyways, this is the flame spreader. This is a binder clip from an office supply company. And this is actually the windscreen. You will not necessarily be using the stove with this windscreen, which is heavy foil. The way it does, it just circles around like that and goes over the stove. It does make it kind of in the ultralight category. But let's look at the stove itself. So this is it. It's very compact. I actually like white gas stoves over the butane and isopropane stoves because, especially in this case, this is a multi-fuel stove. This will actually run on kerosene, it'll run on diesel in a pinch, it'll run on white gas, which is what I usually fire this on. That's the cleanest burning. It will also run on unleaded gas if you need to. I've not seen it on alcohol. But we'll get a close-up of some of this and I'll put it together for you. So here is the stove disassembled. Now, what you've got the actual stove. I've put the heat reflector on it, and these legs just swing all the way around and they latch. Watch this, totally tear the heck out of the flame, well, the heat reflector. Not too reflective right now, is it? So that's the stove. I will, just for demonstration purposes, show you. Yes, that works. And I like to put the binder clip on even though it can get a little hot. You may have to fiddle with this so it looks right, but there we go. Oops. And then what you do is take the bottle. Be careful here because it may have shaken up and been pressurized. This is full of white gas right now. The nice thing about the fuel bottle is it'll take the pressure and, keep that somewhere safe because you have to. But yeah, the MSR is the first company to come up with the idea of carrying your fuel bottle and stove tank in one. So sometimes there's a little washer. I won't fiddle with that right now. And you snug it down, not too much. And this just pumps up like one of those old Coleman stoves. do this freehand a bit better. $16 is about good. Usually they say about 15. Now, here's the trick with this stove. This will hook on in a minute, but you have a priming wick down here. And what happens is the stove cup, you'll actually turn it on a little bit and you'll fill the stove cup with fuel, because right here, this copper tube, you can barely see it, that is a generator that actually vaporizes the gas and has to be preheated. Now, at the bottom of the tube, underneath here, it actually goes all the way in. At the bottom of that, bottom of the primer cup, there's actually a jet. There's a different size for kerosene, different size for white gas. This is the WhisperLite International, which is a multi-fuel stove. There's a WhisperLite which takes the same design. Well, of course, now it's a little lighter and a little nicer looking. Same design, takes not as many fuels. There's also the WhisperLite Universal, which is all of the above, plus it will take isopropane cartridges. It's got a little stand for the cartridge as well, which is nice. So, I mean, if you can really afford it, the WhisperLite Universal is the one to go for. I like the International. It's all I need. So then the last thing you do, this can get a bit tricky. Right, you want to get the tank into the stove. And I haven't done this a lot lately. Right, so that should be it there. And then the clip should come down. And then it will snug it on. And this is actually your lever. Newer ones have a different type of lever. So if we just hang on for a moment, there is the stove, ready to go. A little more stable if you get a pot on it. Speaking of, for all MSR stoves, there is something called the Trillium stand. Lightweight aluminum. It hooks underneath. I'm going to put this on, and then we will fire this baby up. And I'll show you a different windscreen that I like to use. So we'll be back in a moment. Okay, this could be a little tricky, because I'm used to just doing this, not demonstrating it. So let us see. First thing you do is you turn it, and you'll hear a little bit of the gas coming out. And you'll see the primer cup here fill up. Now you don't want to do it too much. Here, I'm going to snug it down right now, in fact. Turn it right off. You don't want to fill it too much or you will splash fuel everywhere, and that's not good. So the next thing you do, next thing you do is do not buy cheap match safes with this crappy flint on the bottom. This is what I used to use before I bought the UCO Stormproof ones, and they are so much better, as you will see in other videos. Anyways, here we go. So what you need to do is let that do exactly what it's doing, and get yourself a second match. It's an old-timer's trick to keep a stump of a candle whenever you're fiddling with fire or something, because it's easier to keep a candle lit than light a candle once and you don't burn up all your tinder or use up all your matches. You let it rip. Notice, you'll remember, this is not currently on. This is just the fuel burning down. This is the priming phase. And oh, what a priming phase it is. So what's happening is the heat is heating up this little spiral coil here. It does take a minute for it to burn down. You will actually see as it primes, at one point you'll see the actual burners start flashing blue flame on you. And that's good. That means it's warmed up and ready to go. You may see it's actually doing it right now, just a little tiny bit. So that's hot, that's ready to go. Next thing you do, turn it on. You should hear it hiss or see some vapor out the top. I'll do this quick. Okay, we pause a second and let the train go by. Now watch. Here we are. Let's move it over a hair. You can see it going. That makes it a really nice little stove. I'm trying to remember, I think it was 85 minutes at full blast on one tank, which is well better than any little isopropane cartridge. And something like 243 or 289 minutes on low. And this is on full blast. Let's turn it down a hair. So you can turn it slow. With a little bit of tinkering, you can get it down to a simmer. So that said, don't mind a little bit of soot. This has not been cleaned for a bit. If it were kerosene, the last time I fired this up was on kerosene, and I should have cleaned it. Stupid me. But let's see something else now. To actually run out of... Oh, I turned it off. So you got to watch the simmer or you will actually turn the stove off. That's sort of a medium low. And now this time I have precisely 1 liter of water. Let's see right now. So I'm opening this full blast. Oh, as full blast as I dare to, yes. Let's see if we can take it down a bit. Oh no, that you can see that. It's actually glowing nice and hot. This is a great little backpacker stove. I've always been a fan of this. And by the way, if you hear dogs and so on in the backyard, I'm not kidding when I say the wilderness is my backyard, but well, Parkland County is my front yard. So that baby is glowing nice and orange, and it is going full blast while it is gearing up to boil. Quickly show you something else I use instead of the aluminum heat shield. Is this. You can get these for a few bucks. This is just a heavier duty aluminum heat shield, like so. Got 2 little arms. You can stick these in the ground, which is handy, and around it goes just like that. I tend to use that on, zoom out a second here. So there's a basic what, $8 aluminum Coughlin's camp stove heat shield. It does a good job. I mean, it's not it doesn't go all the way around, which is what the aluminum one would do, like that, the soft one. But again, I use it as an option. I don't necessarily cook a lot in breezy or windy conditions, which is what that full heat shield is for. You can also get a heat exchanger to fit on MSR pots, which I believe I've shown in another video, and it's great too. Yeah, that thing just roasting away down there. You can periodically give it a few pumps, but not too much. This is not like a Coleman where you got to give 30 strokes or so. That's a very high efficiency pump down there. Especially high efficiency because it is 27 years old. This is all the original kit here. We're coming along. Lots of little bubbles. They're at the 2-minute and 15-second mark. And actually, while we're waiting for that, I'm going to discuss something. I know a lot of ultralighters and you know, backpackers, a lot of gear nuts like myself get hung up on boil times. You know, guys who pay for expensive, you know, one pot, 1 unit jet boils, or MSR makes a reactor, that the reactor stove, but it only fits the reactor cookware. Yeah, you know, fair enough. And I know guys will brag about, oh, my stove can boil a liter of water in 3 minutes flat. Well, that's all going to depend. It's going to depend on altitude, it's going to depend on wind conditions, you name it. It would probably boil a little better if I put the 1 liter pot with the heat exchanger on it and the full windscreen. You know, you'd get a great boil time. But honestly, is it that necessary? You get a boil, you've got a stove. Does it boil water before it runs out of fuel in an emergency? Yes. Will it boil water? Will it boil a liter of water in 4 or 5 minutes? Yes. That's really about all you need to do. If you're a specialist, well, then maybe you need something more. Average person, you don't need to pay more for like super great boil times. You need something that works and works flawlessly in a pinch. No, is that thing ever chugging away? Yeah, so boil times, not so important. This is especially true of, like, I've actually seen people get ridiculous about boil times on wood stoves, you know, the little pocket wood stoves. And honestly, you're not worried about carrying a fuel tank with them, so heck, if it boils water in 10 minutes, I'm happy. So that's my little rant about boil times. Having said all that, you know, I'm getting some pine needles. You can tell, you've been out in the bush when your pockets are full of pine needles. Yeah, really coming along now. We'll actually take it over and have a quick look. Oh, there's one more thing with your boil times. You can see it's going a bit. Give it another minute or so covered. That's the other thing with boil times is, was the pot covered or not? See, a lot of that is a marketing gimmick. I'm sorry I'm back on the boil times rant, but that is a marketing gimmick. You know, you never know. I don't know if there is a standard for testing backpacker stoves and what accessories you can throw on it, and you name it. Like I said, an MSR with the heat exchanger and the right pots probably boil water in a minute or two faster. It is boiling, but it's not at a full rolling boil yet. And it was a nice thing about these stoves as well, versus the jet boils and the single piece units. The nice thing I really like about these is you can use, for example, there's a product called the Outback oven. You can bake stuff on this if you are really so inclined. This is actually a great stove for, you know, groups of 2 to 4. and you can actually really get it going. By the way, full rolling boil right there. That's about it. Now the heat shield, don't do this unless you're sure it's not hot. There we go. If I were cooking coffee, I'd give it another 3 minutes, I would have the best pot of camp coffee around. This is a nice little percolator. Let's put this aside. That is what it looks like when it's just chugging away, going full blast. Actually, that's not full blast. This is more full blast. Now you can see it's actually quieted down, so it needs a couple of pumps. But instead, I can turn this off and let it cool. You see it glowing orange there. That's why you got to leave it for a bit. And don't, at this point, do not take the stove apart. Turn it all the way down. Turn the valve to the off position, because there's still residual fuel in that fuel line, and you got to let it cool and you got to let that vaporize out. Otherwise, you could do yourself a serious mischief. But there we have it. That is the MSR WhisperLite International stove. That is a 27-year-old MSR WhisperLite International stove at that. So that gives you an idea of what kind of quality some of these backpacking stove companies are. I've loved MSR for 27 years, and we've had a long and healthy relationship together. Well, that's it for this video. Just wanted to show a few more things. Like I said, here's the actual heat shield. This works well. They get kind of dinged up after a while. But yeah, definitely get the MSR WhisperLite Expedition repair kit as well. There's a lot of great little tools in here. Extra jets, jet cleaner, all the O-rings and washers. Like, it's a good kit. You'll also get the annual maintenance kit, which you can get separately for about $6 to $8. One of the other things, like, I love the fuel bottle this comes with. It is fairly light, but one of the things is sometimes on longer excursions you got to carry extra fuel. These are yet another of the gear collection that nobody makes anymore. These are there's a special fuel bottle. These were made by Nalgene, I think about 15 years ago. A lot of people still ask for these online, a lot. They're very light. They hold about 500 mils of fuel, so it'll get you through another day or two each. Like I said, they're very light. And what's really annoying is, once again, Nalgene does not make these anymore. Hey Nalgene, how about please making these again? Or at least giving us something comparable. I just like the fact that these were red versus the usual clear color. Anyway, so these come with me on long trips as well. Mind you, I usually don't fire up the stove very often unless I need a quick cup of coffee. If I've got a place I've got a fire going, I'll normally use that. But as far as stoves go, this is my hands down favorite backpacking stove. And all of the MSR line. Optimus are great too. But yeah, all of these. Especially like the Dragonfly as well. If I ever get one, I'll do a demo. But yeah, MSR WhisperLite International series. Actually, it's the MSR WhisperLite series, and this is the WhisperLite International. Definitely you could afford it. The price tag is pretty high. It's 70 or 90 bucks. Or more sometimes. But, you know, it's definitely worth getting if you need a good, reliable, lightweight backpacking stove. So, thank you guys very much for watching. It's the Alberta Bushcrafter channel. I'm Dean. Take care, and good day.